We could be crying that a white man is our worst nightmare, but the Arab has to be the devil we never noticed.
The UAE is who is responsible for the genocide happening in Sudan, and let me tell you why. They do not have one gold mine, yet they are one of the largest traders of gold internationally every year. A report put out by Swiss Aid said that from 2012 to 2022, the UAE received the amount of gold equivalent to $115 billion that was smuggled to the UAE from Africa. So the UAE was only able to call Dubai the city of gold because of all of their absolutely heinous crimes that they are committing and the resources that they are stealing from land that is not theirs.
Large amounts of gold are smuggled out of the continent, and Dubai has been singled out as the hub where the smuggled gold is sent to and traded. Did you know that in 2022 alone, 93% of illegal gold extracted and smuggled to the UAE originated from Africa? And the amount stands at 435 tons of gold, valued at approximately $35 billion. This means that about 40% of Africa's gold production and 12% of the global gold production is lost to the UAE. So, what does this tell you?
Africa has played a big part in lifting Dubai into the golden city that it is. Every month, tons of African gold lands in the United Arab Emirates. However, this gold doesn't land there willingly because it's smuggled. Let me give you an example. Sudan is Africa's third largest gold producer, behind only Ghana and South Africa. 70% of the gold produced in Sudan is smuggled out of the country. Most of it ends up in Dubai. The same is true of Cameroon. Most of the gold that is produced in Cameroon is also smuggled out of the country, and most of it ends up in Dubai. You may say that this gold only lands in Dubai because Africans are smuggling it out in the first place. But you'd be wrong, because Africans are not the ones smuggling it out. It's a handful of corrupt leaders that are doing this. They are stealing it from the people, smuggling it out and selling it. They are only able to do so because there's a market for that smuggled gold. You can't blame that on Africans. And so we, the people of Africa, are saying to the world out there, stop buying smuggled gold from Africa.
I lived in Dubai, and if there's one thing I can tell you for sure, Dubai has no gold. Dubai has no gold mine. So, actually, I have been thinking, yeah, excuse the road, you know, I'm walking around and it's kind of like busy. But then I thought to myself, I lived in Dubai. Dubai is called the city of gold. Matter of fact, they have money printed in gold. If you go to the Versace hotel, gold. You go to places in Dubai hotels, gold. The new Atlantis, the palm that they just built that Beyonce opened, go book yourself a room there. Gold, like not even fake gold. These people be literally making cars out of gold. And it never hit me. Where does Dubai get its gold? Because it's not a country that has any gold mine. Interesting. Thinking about that, I was like, actually, if you come to think about it, the president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, coming out and exposing the UAE for stealing Africa's gold, it made sense because the UAE has had a stand in Burkina Faso in the Sub-Sahara region for a long time. I mean, if we are looking at the unsettlement in Sudan, it's a place where the UAE has a lot of hands. You understand what I mean? So you ask yourself, how come Dubai is the city of gold when it produces not even an ounce of gold? When they don't have it, where do they get it? For me, when I found out this, it was like a food for thought, because I was like, we have been crying about the whites colonizing Africa, doing the most in Africa. We are crying France and the Sahel region. The AES is doing the most to cut out anything that has to do with French power, right? And meanwhile they are doing that, you keep on seeing the United Arab Emirates, the Gulf countries, they get on richer. They keep on getting richer. Of course, they are blessed with natural minerals like oil. But then with all the wealth that they have, that includes diamonds and golds, like the city of gold, the city of diamonds. Have you seen Saudi Arabia? Have you seen Qatar? We could be crying that the white man is our worst nightmare. Meanwhile, an Arab is the devil we don't know yet.
Gold is one of the natural resources that Africa has in abundance. Several African countries, including Burkina Faso, Mali, and Ghana, have this mineral in abundance, and for Burkina Faso, gold is its major export product. However, despite the abundance of this resource, Burkina Faso has not been able to fully maximize and enjoy the benefits of having gold in abundance. Why? It's because gold, like other mineral resources in Africa, is being exploited by outsiders. So, who is behind this exploitation? Is it the West? Let's find out. It's not news that for centuries the African continent has been subjected to massive exploitation of both human and mineral resources. It's also not news that the West, particularly Europe, has been responsible for this exploitation for their own benefit, which has had undesirable effects on the African continent. However, it would surprise you to know that a recently carried out report revealed that it's not only the West that has and is still exploiting Africa. According to the report, the United Arab Emirates, UAE, is stealing billions of dollars from Africa by smuggling gold worth that amount every year. Detailed research has revealed that Africa is the world's largest producer of gold, with Ghana, South Africa, Mali, and Burkina Faso leading production as of 2022. The precious metal is also a source of income for millions of artisanal miners, as well as a source of revenue for many governments, especially those such as Burkina Faso, whose main export product is gold. Africa is surrounded on every side by exploiters. The rest of the world sees the continent as their backyard that is filled with treasures that they can have access to anytime and anyhow they like. African mineral resources are its treasures, and every country wants a piece of it. Sometimes, these countries will say they want to access these minerals legally. That's why they hold summits with Africa every now and then, where they can sign deals and agreements with the leaders of the African countries. However, another fact is that most of the time those deals and agreements are usually beneficial only to the foreign country. The deals grant them easy access to exploit African minerals, but the government gets little in return, plus environmental pollution and degradation. Now let's go back to the report, which by the way was published by a Swiss development NGO. The report says that the smuggling of gold is on the rise, and that African gold has become very important for Dubai. According to data from Comtrade, the share of African gold in the UAE's reported hold imports increased from 18% to almost 50% between 2006 and 2016. Customs data also revealed that the UAE imported $15.1 billion worth of gold in 2016, a number that surpassed every other country in the world and significantly up from $1.3 billion in 2006. The total weight was 446 tons, with varying degrees of purity compared to 67 tons in 2006. But do you know what's interesting and shocking? The majority of this gold was not recorded in the export statistics of African countries. This therefore means that large quantities of gold are leaving the African continent without any taxes being paid on them to the countries producing the gold. So, evidently, African gold-producing countries have been missing out on taxes amounting to billions of dollars over the last decade. Data provided by governments to Comtrade revealed that for several years, the UAE has been the prime destination for gold for many African countries. While China, the world's biggest gold consumer, was the largest importer of gold from Africa in 2015, the UAE, however, doubled that amount in 2016. Now, in the same year, the UAE reported gold imports from 46 African countries. However, 25 of the 46 countries did not provide Comtrade with data on their good exports to the UAE. Despite this, the UAE reported importing a total of $7.4 billion worth of gold from these countries. But that's not all. The UAE also reported importing gold worth $3.9 billion, which is approximately 67 tons from the remaining 21 countries, which is more than the reported exporting of these countries. Now, most of the gold smuggled to the UAE ends up in Dubai, which serves as a gateway to markets in Europe, the United States, and beyond. The gold is mostly mined by small-scale miners in countries and exported through African countries that are not major gold producers. One such country is Togo, which gets its supply from Burkina Faso, the fourth largest producer of gold in Africa. The purpose of this is to ensure that no taxes will be imposed on the gold. This situation, as described by one economist, is a classic case of export under-invoicing aimed at reducing taxes. According to the Swiss report, this illicit trade amounts to between $23.7 billion and $35 billion annually. The scale of the flow underscores how small-scale, or artisanal, mining has mushroomed into an industry involving millions of people producing volumes of gold on a par with, or even bigger than, industrial mining. Aside from the loss in tax revenues, experts and governments have warned that smuggling on this scale indicates a vast parallel illicit economy vulnerable to potential money laundering, terrorist finance, and sanctions evasion. If you can recall, this is a major reason why President Traore of Burkina Faso suspended gold exports from the country and decided to build the gold refinery in Burkina Faso. Mark Hummel, the commodities lead at Swiss Aid and one of the authors of the report, said the UAE contributes to gold laundering because large quantities of smuggled gold acquire a legal existence by transiting through the UAE. If we keep on seeing more than 400 tons of illegal gold entering the UAE every year, this is a clear sign that the implementation of the regulations in the UAE is seriously lacking, he said. The Swiss report further revealed that 12 countries in Africa were majorly involved in smuggling 20 tons or more of gold per year. The majority of this comes from Mali, Ghana, and Zimbabwe. And from there, it is funneled to Dubai through refineries in countries like Uganda and Rwanda. In addition to the refineries in Uganda and Rwanda, the smuggled gold is also transported by private jet or even in hand luggage, often accompanied by false papers. When it gets to Dubai, the gold is refined in one of its several refineries and then traded by Dubai's 7,000 traders. Before we end this report, we have to talk about one important aspect of this issue. How is gold smuggled out of African countries every year successfully? It's simply through artisanal mining. Since 2009, the price of gold has more than doubled, and this has led a lot of people in gold-producing countries in Africa to turn to artisanal mining, which is mining gold on a small scale or through informal methods. It's a very common source of income for millions of Africans and has enabled many to earn money that can give them a comfortable life. According to estimates from the Swiss report, artisanal gold mining produced between 443 and 596 tons of gold in 2022. The UAE has since taken advantage of this system to smuggle gold illegally out of these countries on a vast scale. The shocking thing is that the gold is sometimes smuggled by terrorist and armed groups who use the sale of the gold to finance their criminal operations. It wouldn't be too far to say that the USE might even be responsible for creating the armed groups and jihadists terrorizing African countries, such as the DRC, Mali, and Burkina Faso, because they want to have access to gold mining sites. In 2019, during a mining conference, the president of Ghana, Akufo-Addo, noted that artisan mining began as a small-time venture. However, it has evolved to large-scale and dangerous operations that are run and controlled by foreign-controlled crime syndicates. There is no doubt that it is not everyone who conducts illegal trade in the black market of African gold. There are those who mine legally and sell their product to middlemen, who in turn sell it to whoever wishes to buy. However, the fact is that this process helps to obscure the main source of the couriers before the gold is transported out of the continent. Take the DRC, for instance, which is a major gold-producing country in Africa. However, its official reports are only a fraction of its estimated production. Every year it's reported that the DRC loses $1 billion in gold trafficking, and the gold passes through Rwanda and Uganda before it reaches Dubai. This is confirmed by the fact that Rwanda doesn't have substantial gold mining operations. However, it reported $542 million in gold exports to the UAE in 2022. Now, after the Swiss report was published, where it accused the UAE that it was not doing enough to enforce regulations on the sector, a UAE Ministry of Economy spokesperson said the UAE cannot be held accountable for other governments' export records. The question now is what can be done to change this situation? Should every gold-producing country follow the footsteps of President Traore in suspending gold exports and building a gold refinery so that instead of exporting raw gold, they can export the finished product? The answer to that is yes. In his wisdom, President Traore understands how gold has been smuggled out of his country, thereby leading to the country not benefiting fully from it. This is why he decided to ban the export of gold from Burkina Faso for now. However, not only did he ban the export of gold, he also suspended the issuance of export permits to artisanal and semi-mechanized gold and other precious commodities production effective immediately. In simple terms, no gold mined in Burkina Faso would leave the country. According to Traore, this action is necessary so that the mining sector as well as the marketing of gold can be cleaned up and better organized. The construction of the gold refinery, which will be in operation before this year ends, is another brilliant step taken by Traore to halt the smuggling of gold from Burkina Faso. Once the refinery is in operation, Burkina Faso will no longer export raw gold whose price is affected by the global market, but will now export finished product or refined gold, thereby bringing in additional value and revenue to the Burkinabe economy.
Smuggling of African gold is on the rise. Every year, billions of dollars worth of gold are being smuggled out of Africa, mainly to the United Arab Emirates. There, it is refined and sold globally. According to this Swiss Aid report, the primary importers of African gold were the UAE, Switzerland, and India. And nearly 80% of gold from countries in Africa went into these countries in 2022. 12 African countries are involved in smuggling more than 20 tons every year, with Mali, Ghana, and Zimbabwe being the major hubs. The aim of this report was to make gold trade more accountable, thereby helping local communities and small-scale miners. And as it is, the smuggling more than doubled between 2012 and 2022, with the UAE being the major destination before the gold is re-exported.
Hi guys, good morning. Hope everyone is well. So today I'd like to talk about buyers in Dubai. So every buyer in Dubai expects gold to be brought from Africa without any upfront payment, without paying for tax, without paying for insurance, and then they still expect a discount as soon as it hits the office in Dubai. Unfortunately, this don't happen. Why would the seller upfront all these costs without a buyer paying a single penny? I get he's afraid that he could get scammed, but why should the seller upfront all these costs and then give it to a discount to a new buyer in Dubai? They could literally just sell it at market price and sell it straight to a refinery. So right now, we don't take on any more Dubai buyers. We have our buyers at the moment who will issue a SPLC, who will issue a LC, who will even issue an upfront payment. So right now we don't take anyone on new. So that's today's video, guys. I'll fill you in more tomorrow.
This is 1 kilo of gold. 20 years ago, it was worth $11,000. 10 years ago, $41,000. And today, $63,000.
Today, in this video, we will reveal how the UAE, United Arab Emirates, is stealing tens of billions worth of African gold every year. The UAE is deeply involved in looting gold from Mali, Sudan, the DRC, and other African countries. For instance, in 2022 alone, 93% of illegal gold exported to the Emirates originated from Africa, totaling 435 tons of gold, valued at approximately $35 billion. This constitutes 40% of Africa's gold production and 12% of the global total production. So, today, the illegal exploitation of African resources is not done mainly by the group traditionally known as the West. Today, African resources are exploited by several countries from different parts of the world. African minerals no longer belong exclusively to its people, Africans. They have become what I refer to as public or global wealth. The West, including the UK, France, Germany, the US, and others, will come and take whatever they want. Another group will come from Asia or the Middle East to take whatever they want, another from South America, and so on. Most of these activities are often not done legally. Even those that are said to be lawfully acquired are done with a colonialist and imperialist fist. Over the last decade, gold from Africa has become increasingly crucial for Dubai. Between 2006 and 2016, the share of African gold in UAE's reported gold imports rose from 18% to nearly 50%, according to Comtrade data. Customs data reveals that the UAE imported $15.1 billion, $11.6 billion worth of gold from Africa in 2016, surpassing any other country and significantly up from $1.3 billion in 2006. The total weight was 446 tons with varying degrees of purity, compared to 67 tons in 2006. Much of this gold was not recorded in the export statistics of African states. Trade economists interviewed by Reuters indicated that this suggests large quantities of gold are leaving Africa without any taxes being paid to the producing states. The data provided by governments to Comtrade, a United Nations database, indicates that the UAE has been a prime destination for gold from many African states for several years. In 2015, China, the world's biggest gold consumer, imported more gold from Africa than the UAE. However, in 2016, the UAE imported almost double the value of gold taken by China. With African gold imports worth $8.5 billion that year, China came a distant second, while Switzerland, the world's gold refining hub, came third with $7.5 billion worth. In 2016, the UAE reported gold imports from 46 African countries. Of these, 25 did not provide Comtrade with data on their gold exports to the UAE. Despite this, the UAE reported importing a total of $7.4 billion worth of gold from these countries. Additionally, the UAE imported gold worth $3.9 billion, approximately 67 tons, from the remaining 21 countries, which is more than these countries reported exporting.
It was released earlier today. It says that in 2022, at least 435 tons of gold were smuggled out of Africa. 435 tons. That's more than 1 ton of gold every day.
Dubai has been exploiting Africa's gold. But who's behind this masterminded heist? If you think it's just one nation, you're mistaken. In reality, multiple nations have banded together to plunder Africa's gold. And tragically, while they grow richer, Africa remains trapped in economic instability. They build empires on African gold and in return, give nothing. So, who's really behind it all? Let's find out. Africa, blessed with immense natural wealth, has long been the target of foreign exploitation. From the dark days of colonization to the modern era of globalization, Africa's resources have consistently been drained by those who see its riches as theirs for the taking. Today, the United Arab Emirates UAE, with its gleaming skyscrapers and luxurious lifestyle, stands at the center of a new chapter in this age-old story, the illegal gold trade. In 2022 alone, an astounding 93% of the illegal gold entering the UAE originated from Africa, totaling 435 tons worth a staggering $35 billion.